CEO Wisdom podcast with Ryan Austin with us today. He has an interesting background, sold his GoFish startup, which was similar to a GoPro, but for the fishing industry a couple of years ago. Nowadays, he spends his time in Cognota. He's founder and CEO of the company. He's at LearnOps platform. Cognota is a LearnOps platform. We're going to get into that today. Ryan, can you briefly introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about yourself and the company.
Yeah, happy to, Charles. So Ryan Austin, CEO and founder of Cognota. I think I've had maybe two jobs ever in my life. So I've always been an entrepreneur ever since I was a kid, typical like selling lemonade and apples the side of the street to, you grow older to doing, um, housekeeping for neighbors and window washing. And then just before university and high school, mobile car detailing, we partnered with restaurants. And that was kind of like my first venture where I was actually able to like draw a salary from that. And it was pretty cool. And then in university, I started getting into tech, created my first tech company, which eventually led me to starting different companies like GoFish Cam. And today I'm operating Cognota, as you described.
Tell us a bit more about Cognota itself. Why did you founded that one? What's the thesis? And yeah, how's it been going so far?
Yeah, it's been going great. So the thesis really was built around um, a lot of at the enterprise level, pretty much every business function, revenue, sales, marketing, finance, HR, et cetera. They all have their own purpose-built operating system. So think about it like, software development, you have GitLabs or Atlassian. Marketing, you have HubSpot or Marketo. Sales, Salesforce, et cetera, et cetera. And what most people don't know, and so my thesis was, if all these other business functions have purpose-built operating systems, why doesn't the corporate learning and development function have its own purpose-built operating system? I'm not talking about the learning management system, which hosts content and deliver it to the learners. That, in fact, is not an operating system built for the learning and development team to operate their business function. It really is for the learners. So what I noticed was that these L&D teams were using 6 to 8 disparate tools to try and operate. No access or very hard, it's hard access, very limited to good data and analytics to show the health of the operations for L&D, and very limited ways of showing ROI. What was interesting in learning about the industry over the last decade was that these corporate learning and development teams globally spend $320 billion. That's $100 billion more than what marketing teams spend on advertising annually. And again, just no way to show ROI. So that's what formed the thesis. And we built the first operating system to manage end-to-end learning operations. And what we found was that we were actually creating the LearnOps category. Think of DevOps or RevOps. LearnOps just didn't exist, and now we're kind of educating the market on it as well.
Interesting. And the subscription, it starts at 1.5K a year per user, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So how much customers do you have right now? How many users?
Uh, well, we have probably like 15, 20,000 users, but not all of them are paying. So depending on the user license, that some people pay, some don't.
All right. So let's call it 3K paid users or something like that.
Uh, I'd actually have to check.
Well, it's a pretty good business is where I'm getting at because yeah, if that is the case, we're talking about yeah, tens of millions in terms of ARRs, and you started that 4 years ago, right?
We're under that, but quickly climbing towards like real enterprise value.
It's still very good. Are you still with your brother in that one? How many employees?
Now we have about 40 employees. My brother is an entrepreneur as well, and he co-founded a company after we sold GoFish Cam. He went off and co-founded a company called Millions.co. And it's basically like advertising for athletes to monetize their brands. And one of his co-founders is Bruce Buffer from
Wow.
UFC, the Octagon guy. Yeah.
Yeah, Bruce Buffer, pretty cool guy. Listened to an interview of his and yeah, discovered he was a black belt. I thought he was only good at announcing fights, but seems like he's a renaissance man. Pretty cool. Yeah, I might invite your brother to the pod as well. But for
Yeah, I'll
Cognota,
connect you guys.
thanks for that. For Cognota, like what are your goals this year? There's like 6 months left to the year. What you want to accomplish in terms of new users?
Yeah, so hitting our growth goals is really important to us, but I define Cognota as being in this development optimized stage still for and and um and we're setting up ourselves for like proper scale for next year. We're doing some really cool stuff, enhancing our go-to-market strategy with community and taking our free trial into what's called a reverse free trial. So if you don't upgrade in 30 days, you can use the platform for free in a scaled back version. And so, before we can fully turn that on, there's also a little product work that we got to do. So again, this year is really develop and optimize where we're completing the team. So hiring certain roles, or we just hired those roles. So community manager, partner marketing, and a couple others. And essentially finishing 3 features that allow us to extend our workflows and use cases. And then on the go-to-market side, like really getting the community to the next level and kicking things off with these partnerships we have in a more meaningful way. And next year is really exciting. We're launching what's called LearnOps certification, and through our community ambassador program, um, people in learning and development can sign up for free certification in their local cities to come in, learn about learning operations, and get certified. So very similar to the HubSpot model with, like get marketing certified and whatnot. And again, free to join, and every class will be limited to a certain amount of people. So we're really excited about that. We think it's going to be really good for the industry to take the maturity of LearnOps to the next level, and then really good for Cognota as well.
For GTM, do you rely 80% on community? Do you still do some outbound work as well?
Yeah, mainly today was driven by inbound and outbound. I would say 70%, actually almost 80% inbound, 20% outbound. With the markets changing a little bit with SaaS, we're focusing a little more on outbound just to, push things a little harder, faster, while we ramp up. So if you look at our funnel today, we've been marketing qualified lead, sales qualified lead. And the work we're doing on the go-to-market is to add partner qualified lead, community qualified lead, and product qualified lead. So like really hitting the market from 5 angles and squeezing it as much as possible in a unique way that is really around thought leadership, where you earn the trust of the market right away, because of how you approach them in that whole buyer's experience. So like really modern way of selling B2B SaaS, and very hard to do. Like usually don't do things well when you try and do all of them, but because we're creating a new category, we have no choice to invest in all of those top of funnel strategies right away to keep us, from being the leader in LearnOps.
Quite excited. Tell me a bit more about your customer persona. I believe you target mostly chief learning officers.
VP of Learning and Development, Directors of Learning and Development, CLOs, Managers of L&D. It's basically that corporate L&D team. And what most people don't understand, like the bigger the company, the more decentralized these teams are. So in really big companies, you might have 100, 200 learning and development teams. It's, you generally don't have one L&D team. The bigger the company, you start to see learning and development partners, meaning learning and development's not even centralized. You'll start to see like learning and development procurement, which is an L&D team that just works with supply chain and procurement, right? And then you'll have sales enablement is an L&D team, that just partners only with the sales and revenue team. So you start to see these models where you have pockets of L&D teams all over the business, and that really fuels land and expand for us.
Right. Have you got funded with that one? I've seen that you've also got a grant, I believe, from the Canadian government. So how are you doing on the funding side of things?
Yeah, so some exciting news soon that can't really yet share. But like, you probably read some stuff over the next few days, but strategies being between like government funding, equity, and venture debt. So really diversifying capital, and big focus on efficiency right now for us. You know, pushing the company to a break even, just to give us the optionality. Like the thing with companies, especially when you're venture backed, is that time is not your friend, it's your enemy. And so I'm really keen on making time our friend as well, where we have the time to choose what we want to do next.
Interesting. I mean, you've founded various companies over the last couple of years. What has been your thesis since that? You've also exited a lot of these companies. Is it to build your empire? Is it to reach a net worth of 100 million? What's your goal in this life?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to add. Like, I think you have to be mission driven. In my earlier days, I was more motivated by money. And when you do that, you feel like you need to be in a rush um, to get to that outcome. And you make a lot of mistakes. And in fact, it's counterproductive. You lose a lot of time. It costs you a lot of money trying to execute on that way. Uh, um, and so entrepreneurship, it's really about the blend of like being patient, but also being resourceful to kind of make the magic happen, as I call it. And it takes time. Like, there are cases where people hit it big within a few years, but those are limited, and it just takes time. You have to know that going into it so you can make the right calculated decisions. Otherwise, it costs you time, and you have to pay that as debt one way or another. And I don't know. I mean, I like what I do right now with Cognota. I think it's pretty cool creating a category and doing something that nobody has literally done on the planet yet. And being able to lead that, and no plans on like, I just want to make it as big as it can be and hire great people, build a great company, help a lot of people in the industry along the way. And time will tell on where we go. We have optionality, either through private equity or strategic partners, or IPO one day. I think this business has the potential to go the full way. So we'll see. Not in a rush. And what I want personally, I like helping. So I guess I need to make enough money where I can help my family first and have residual to help people in need. Like, I think that's really important as a human being, and probably like the most fulfilling thing you can do, and not fully there yet. So, have to have a couple good exits along the way to make that happen.
Right. Well, you're doing a good job so far. I mean, yeah, I posted on that today. If you have an early success, you're either extremely talented and or lucky, and both of these don't scale, or And I mean, I've tried that route. You burn super quick, so you can make shit tons of money really quick, but you'll have a debt because these customers will mostly come back to you unsatisfied, right? So that the scam way kind of, and that doesn't scale either. It will come back in your face sooner or later via slow compounding growth. I think what we're going after, in my case, it's building a portfolio of companies. Pretty sure you're that way also. Legacy, and I guess you're feeding off three main things. So there's cash. There's something growing, right? You're seeing something grow, a community, the numbers, and all that. And finally, the impact that you're having on your customers. How do you measure that last one, the positive impact you're having in someone's life?
Um, so, well, there's different ways. Product, customer happiness, feedback loops. So it just depends. Like from a product perspective, like we have Pendo integrated into our product. So we're measuring activities. Like time to value is something we're going to invest a lot more into next year as well. Like we've done work there, and obviously, but want to get that down to a science next year. Um, it's really hard for startups to figure out what their true North Star metric is going to be in the business, primarily because you're still evolving the product, and you might have a bunch of them until you evolve to a place where you can actually measure it. So we're still not here with Cognota, but by next year I think we will be. And like our North Star metric is really about, if the L&D industry is spending $320 billion of training spend, like how much of that is managed in Cognota, right? And if that's the case, then getting people to upload and to use the budget feature in Cognota is like going to be one of the that's what we need to get them to do fast from a time to value perspective, because naturally, if we're managing their budget, we know that they're going to use our workflows to help execute the budget into activities and to get to the outcomes. We also do like CES and NPS scores and stuff like that with customers. And if you ask our head of customer success, she doesn't like leading with NPS scores because of too many loopholes in the process. Like something pops up on your screen rated a 1 out of 10, you might just hit a number, right? Like without a lot of thought process. So we lean to other ways to measure customer success as well, and that's important for us. I think feedback loops is the most important. Having a good way to capture product requests or needs in real time, and being able to filter that into one funnel for the product team, and being able to see trends and insights into like what are the most common requested initiatives or product features, so that you could properly prioritize and stay away from traps like, we're working with this huge company, they're telling us to do this, we should go and do that, right? Like that's very dangerous to operate like that as a SaaS company.
Interesting. You also are an advisor slash mentor at Elevate. Tell us a bit more about that, and you potentially giving back to other founders. How is one a good mentor?
Yeah, I try. It's tough because it eats into family time now. I have a kid, but I still do it. I try and work with two entrepreneurs at a time. Right now I'm helping two like CEOs, women-led founders. That was important to me. Like I think that like there's a lot of room to have more women-led CEOs, and some of my top mentors that had the biggest impact were women-led founders that had success. And it's just something that I that's where I've chosen to spend a little time to help change the odds. One is in SaaS and one is in consumer product, and just trying to teach people to avoid mistakes that I made earlier on in my entrepreneurial journey, where I try to be too ambitious too fast and spread myself too thin with the resources available, versus being focused on like what's the biggest impact I can make this year and just focusing on that. It's really important to split operational execution with vision. And a lot of entrepreneurs combine the two. And you want this to be as big as possible, as fast as possible. And you have this big vision. You're trying to execute on the full vision. You're going to make mistakes. What you need to do is you put the stake in the ground as the vision, that's the end outcome. And then you build a plan backwards. Like, how can I actually get there within 5 years? And that means that you don't have to do everything right away. So this one entrepreneur, she was like trying to go for vision, was a dog food consumer product, 70K in revenue, so really early stage, and was like, I want to do all of Canada. And I said, like, why? Like, let's, she wanted to go to Quebec. I know you're from Montreal, and like Quebec has its own laws. It's like, difficult. So first off, like, don't go there next. You'd want to go to other provinces first because of, the shared laws in just commerce. And I said, even then, though, you still don't want to do that. Like, you have $70,000. Did you tap the Ontario market, which is where she founded the company? No, like, go and prove that you can scale in just that market first, and then use those resources to hire teams for the other ones. And luckily she listened, and she like went from 70K to 700K this year and is crushing it. I was like, maybe I should have asked for some equity, but I didn't.
Yeah, that's always a question I have as a mentor as well. On my side, I only pick the best founders as well. Like, if they're not giving me results after a couple months, I just fire them, and go to the next one, so that, yeah, once they're ready for my coaching, once they're ready to be held accountable and just act on the advice, or I don't know, have a better idea, it makes them liable to actually deliver me performance as their coach. And I understand that this might be controversial, but yeah, 3 out of 10 or even 2 will be successful most of the time. So and yeah, the Quebec market, I mean, I ran product is hard, like we mentioned pre-called, I had my nootropic company in Canada back in the days, and in Quebec we started the Quebec market because we're from there, and we tried to expand in other markets. I mean, it's as simple as running Facebook ads, and Canada Post can ship in these provinces, but still it takes you good resources. VS, nowadays with my service-based businesses, I can just test any market almost at free of cost, right? And see that in Latam I have like almost zero competition and a lot of interest there. So that is somewhat interesting. 2 last questions for you, because I know we're on time. How do you recruit the best folks in your business? Because I've seen some cool profiles at Cognota. I see that the team is growing. How do you go with that?
Yeah, it's tough. Like, depending on the role, we'll work with some recruiters here and there. I try to avoid it. Like right now, we're doing it just because we have to hire certain roles really quickly. So I'm just diversifying different options. But like I've even found myself, and this is not scalable, but at our stage, it works. Like even doing cold outreach on LinkedIn Navigator to SDRs when we need to hire SDR, I'll do it personally to build a pipeline quickly, because they're like, hey, the CEO like is messaging me. No other company has done that. And then I'll connect them right away with my head of talent, right? And let her take it through the process. But it's just a way to quickly look for top people and do personal outreach to show them that, we're not just looking for employees, we're looking for partnerships, people who want to grow this with us, who believe in the mission, and are a good, have the skills, but also are a good fit for the culture too, right? And that's really important for me as CEO, is like to maintain the culture, because that helps to execute vision, mission, objectives, and birds of a feather flock together. So the more people you add into the culture who are like-minded but diversified, so they bring something fresh to the table too, it helps. if you bring somebody in who's not a good fit, it's a distraction, and it just cripples, like it could crush a quarter for you very quickly if you have one bad hire.
Last question. You've been investing in some startups. How did that go? Like, did you just wanted to diversify your portfolio, started the adventure there, getting more experience in terms of investing? What's your thesis behind these
Yeah,
couple of investments?
yeah, it's just fun. So like when we sold GoFish Cam, my brother started something called Cow Hollow Capital, which was a syndicate, and um, we had access to some Y Combinator companies where we can come in to fill rounds through a syndicate. So we did a couple deals through that, and it's just, it is a way also to kind of give back and just be able to like have some liquidity to do investments, knowing how hard it is because you've been through it as an operator. And I tend to partner with companies I think I can help. Like I invested in this one, and they focused on higher ed, but they were trying to do enterprise, and the enterprise side was just killing their business. And we kind of had like a come to Jesus moment where we took a step back and we looked at the unit economics on the higher ed versus the enterprise, and instead of meshing it together, and there was like a very fast growing business on the higher ed side. They wanted to try and tap into enterprise. I'm like, why? Like, you have a great business, fuck enterprise, and so they got rid of it, and again started growing quickly. And sometimes it's just like that focus is really important in business.
Fully agree. Um, Thank you for the knowledge you've shared today. It's been cool. I loved the interview. Short and sweet, and you're full of wisdom because you have various ventures going on. So really happy to have you on, Ryan. Where can people find out more about you?
LinkedIn, connect there. I'd like to share like things that I create or find interesting. So that might be the best way. And if you want to learn about LearnOps, we have a community on learnops.com or cognota.com for our company website.